Time travel is time travel, but what kind of ghost is time travel on the battlefield? That's okay, but why are the names and appearances of these people around me so familiar? My boss is Li Yunlong from Sword of Glory, and cheap big brother is Jiang Defu from Parental Love. Even the women who pursue him backwards are characters with names and surnames in movies and TV dramas. Hey guy, what about this nostalgic drama hodgepodge? Keywords of the novel. Nostalgic Era without pop-ups. Download the complete collection of Nostalgic Era TXT, and read the latest chapters of Nostalgia Era. Chapter 1. Travel Forgetting to Apply the Brake. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Travel Forgetting to Apply the Brake Nonsense. I won't approve this application. Don't even think about it. Jiang Defu, lock your brother up in the room for me. Without my permission, he won't be allowed to come out. A man in his 40s, wearing an old military uniform, glared angrily at Jiang Deming and then left in anger. Jiang Deming watched helplessly as Li Yunlong's back disappeared before his eyes. To be honest, if it weren't for the system mission, he wouldn't have wanted to leave the army like this. Through these years, he has gradually become accustomed to the life of the army. As soon as he returned from the victorious battle in the north, he received a task from the system to obtain a bachelor's degree in any subject. In response, Jiang Deming had to make a decision to retire. Now, unlike the era when doctors are everywhere and master's degrees are not as good as dogs in the new century, it is very difficult to obtain a bachelor's degree. Even with the help of the system, Jiang Deming is ready to fight a protracted war. Looking at Jiang Defu, who was smiling and gloating at him from across the street, Jiang Deming felt a bit helpless. This is his third brother after traveling, and he has two older brothers and a younger sister in the countryside. Does the name Jiang Defu sound familiar to you? That's right, it's the one from Parental Love. Despite his old-fashioned appearance in the drama, he was actually very out of tune when he was young. And the one who just scolded Jiang Deming angrily was Li Yunlong from Bright Sword. Shortly after his journey, Jiang Deming realized that this world was somewhat different from the one he had remembered before. After encountering several characters that only existed in movies and TV dramas, Jiang Deming determined that this was a world formed by the fusion of multiple films and TV dramas. Like Li Yunlong, according to his normal trajectory, he should be studying at the military academy in Jiangling this time, and the founding war in the north has no place for him. As a result, Jiang Deming's butterfly wing, which had traveled through time, blew him directly to the north, but at the same time, it also prevented the occurrence of extramarital affairs. Lao Li, I have been a big help to you. If you don't want to repay me, why do you still want to lock me up? You can bear it in the future. After harboring a grudge against Li Yunlong in his heart for a while, Jiang Deming looked at Jiang Defu, who was still smiling, and rolled his eyes, saying, still laughing. Do you believe me? Tell the leader about your transfer to the navy. After hearing this, Jiang Defu was so frightened that he quickly restrained his smile and carefully looked outside. He breathed a sigh of relief when he didn't notice the figure of Li Yunlong. He knew about old Li's temper. Although he was still a soldier after changing jobs, much better than Jiang Deming, who retired directly, if Li Yunlong knew about it, he still wouldn't have had much to eat. You kid, you want to pull me into the water together, right? Jiang Defu glared at Jiang Deming angrily. Jiang Deming shrugged and said, who made you keep watching me joke and not help me plead? Harm, you're not unaware of the leader's temper. We are his two ace cards, and we have to run away. It's only strange if he can agree. It's better to wait a few days for him to calm down and talk to him again, sighed Jiang Defu. After speaking, he walked forward and reached out to put his hand on Jiang Deming's shoulder. Upon seeing his movements, Jiang Deming looked at Jiang Defu with unfriendly eyes and said, "Third brother, do you really want to lock me up? Can there still be a fake? The leader has given orders. If I let you run away, it would be unlucky for me." Jiang Defu still wants Li Yunlong to approve him for further studies at the Naval Academy. If Jiang Deming runs away, then he won't be able to leave. Besides, Jiang Deming's discharge application is still stuck there. If Jiang Deming dares to run away before it is approved, he will be shot. In order to prevent his own brother from getting shot, he can only do so. In the end, Jiang Deming was forced by Jiang Defu to the miscellaneous room. It wasn't that he couldn't resist. If we really wanted to fight, Jiang Defu was not a match for Jiang Deming at all. After all, Jiang Deming had relied on the check-that-in system on the battlefield in recent years, and his skills had become extremely formidable. The so-called King of War was just like him, which was why Li Yunlong didn't want to let him leave. Such a person can be a great weapon on the battlefield. Jiang Deming once created a legend of one person killing the entire team, which is a well-equipped elite team of the beautiful country. Instead of soldiers wielding long spears and short swords in the era of cold weapons. So, it can be said that with Jiang Deming's strength, it is as easy as pie to defeat Jiang Defu, whether it is in a situation where both sides are unarmed. But there are not only the two of them living in this courtyard, but also many soldiers who have withdrawn from the battlefield. If there is any commotion, a large number of people will rush over immediately. What will Jiang Deming do then? Do you want to put them all down together? They were all brothers from his own family, and Jiang Deming couldn't do anything harsh. With his hands and feet tied, he only had to endure a beating. If it weren't for that damn check-that-in system suddenly releasing a task and the punishment being unbound, Jiang Deming wouldn't have made the decision to retire. Now we can only wait. When his previous arrangements take effect, Jiang Deming naturally cannot do nothing and just hand over his retirement application to Li Yunlong. Before this, he had already contacted Zhao Gang. As the most educated intellectual in this team, Zhao Gang naturally supported Jiang Deming's choice immensely. After all, Jiang Deming's retirement was for the purpose of going to school, not for anything else. In addition, seeing that there were no more battles left, what the country needed more was talent in construction than a strong general who could charge forward. After all, in this era, China is short of everything, except for strong generals. What Jiang Deming needs to do now is wait for Zhao Gang, who is out of town, to come back, and only he can persuade Li Yunlong. That night, Jiang Deming, who was sitting at his desk writing an article, suddenly heard a knock on the door and looked at the watch he had snatched from the Americans. It was already past 7 p.m., and Jiang Deming guessed that the person who was delivering him food had come over. He stood up and walked out. Just as I didn't want to open the door, a slender figure crawled in. Jiang Deming fixed his eyes and saw that it was actually a woman. Seeing this woman appear, Jiang Deming suddenly felt a headache. The woman in front of him is called by Ruoxue. Jiang Deming accidentally saved this girl once on the battlefield before. Then, Jiang Deming, who was tall and handsome, was targeted. It was not a big deal at first, and the two could be considered golden children and jade maidens just in terms of appearance. Under normal circumstances, Jiang Deming didn't mind making friends with this girl everywhere. After all, he had no problems with himself. At this age, it was indeed time to discuss marriage. The bad thing is that this woman looks so much like Li Yunlong's wife, and Li Yunlong's wife Tianyu has always treated Jiang Deming as family. The two Jiang brothers have been following Li Yunlong since childhood. In the eyes of Jiang Deming and Jiang Defu, Li Yunlong is like a brother and a father. It feels strange to find someone who is so similar to his respected sister. Law. After finally getting rid of Bai Ruoxue and retreating from the battlefield, Jiang Deming felt that the two of them should not have a chance to see each other again. After all, the two belonged to different systems. Who would have thought that this person named Bai Ruoxue would be the cousin of Li Yunlong's wife? No wonder they looked so similar. Feeling Jiang Deming's resistance, the girl not only did not flinch, but also became even more enthusiastic. She even applied to transfer her relationship to become a health worker. God knows that she used to be the head of a certain theater troupe, but for the sake of being a man, she gave up her favorite profession and was willing to start learning medical knowledge that she had never understood before. It's false to say that Jiang Deming is not moved in his heart, but it's really a bit difficult to accept. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Running Overnight. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Running Overnight. How did you come over? Jiang Deming asked helplessly. Bai Ruoxue blinked and said, I heard you were locked up by Lao Li, so I wanted to come over and see what's going on with you. What can I do? Where did you get this key? When Jiang Defu left earlier, he was locked outside. If it weren't for the disappearance of his parents, Jiang Deming would really want to go back and ask. Are the two elders sure that they are both biological? Instead of having someone picked up from outside. It was naturally obtained from my brother.in.law. If you want to leave or not, just beg me. Bai Ruoxue coaxed gently. As long as Jiang Deming asked her, she could naturally make her own demands. After a series of setbacks, Bai Ruoxue also figured out why Jiang Deming repeatedly refused him. While crying and laughing, she was even more determined to take down this man. When she was rescued by Jiang Deming earlier, Bai Ruoxue's heart seemed to have been struck by a lightning bolt, opening a big hole that contained the entire Jiang Deming. From then on, she recognized this man, and unless he got married, Bai Ruoxue would never give up. This man, once she got married, even the Jade Emperor couldn't persuade her. No, I don't want to. Jiang Deming sternly refused. After spending so much time with both sides, he also had some understanding of Bai Ruoxue's personality. This woman appeared gentle on the surface, but in reality, she was very firm and determined. Even the 9 cows could not be pulled back. Do you believe that as long as Jiang Deming begs her, she can make some outrageous demands in the next second? For example, what kind of object, or simply prove it by boiling raw rice until it's cooked? Are you planning to be locked up here forever? You know my brother.in.law's personality, unless you bow down and admit your mistake, he will definitely not let you out. Bai Ruoxue said. Then don't go out, said Jiang Deming, the old god present. You. Bai Ruoxue felt a surge of anger. Why is this man so brainless? Alright, what are you going to do? Someone will see you with me soon. It's time to gossip. Then let them talk. Bai Ruoxue looked at Jiang Deming stubbornly and said, Jiang Deming, why bother with you when I talk about you as a big man? It's just a small matter, and is it so complicated? As for... Jiang Deming nodded seriously. Ah. Bai Ruoxue was almost furious. After stomping on Jiang Deming in anger, she turned around and left. In the end, she didn't forget to put the lock back on. Jiang Deming in the room rubbed his feet in pain and cursed the dead girl in secret. Why didn't he know that she also had a stubborn side before? As soon as Bai Ruoxue left, the room quieted down again. Jiang Deming was bored and could only continue to pass the time by writing articles. Fortunately, Jiang Defu had a bit of conscience and left him paper and pen. Otherwise, if he kept sitting and daydreaming, Jiang Deming would feel like he would go crazy sooner or later. It wasn't until the next afternoon that Jiang Deming waited for Zhao Gang. The first thing he said upon entering was to ask Jiang Deming to pack up and follow him. Seeing Zhao Gang's hurried appearance, Jiang Deming couldn't help but ask curiously, Political Commissar, have you not taken care of our division commander? You're not unaware of your mentor's donkey temper. I've already had old Ding deceive him out. Let's hurry up and leave, it's too late. Zhao Gang said. Jiang Deming laughed at the words, and now Lao Zhao has also learned to be flexible. Has my application been approved yet? Approved, and I have also brought you the admission notice. As Zhao Gang spoke, he took out 2 certificates rolled into cylinders from his arms and handed them to Jiang Deming. Jiang Deming took it and saw that one was a reply to his retirement application, allowing him to retire, and the other was an admission letter from Shuimu University. All the conditions for leaving are now in place, but before leaving, he still needs to tidy up his things. At this time, there are no computers, and what Jiang Deming needs to write depends entirely on paper and pen. Now that he is leaving, he naturally has to take those things with him. Zhao Gang was able to handle this, so he didn't stop it. Anyway, it won't take much time. Unexpectedly, as soon as he returned to his room, Jiang Deming met Jiang Defu, who had come back from outside. The two brothers stared wide-eyed, and the atmosphere was once very awkward. Fortunately, Zhao Gang was right next to him, and Jiang Defu, the troublemaker, finally didn't take any action to tie Jiang Deming back. Seeing Zhao Gang, Jiang Defu almost guessed the situation. After greeting Zhao Gang, he looked at Jiang Deming with complex eyes. "Are you really leaving now?" Jiang Deming didn't hide it either, and there's nothing to hide from him until now. "Yeah, my retirement application has been approved, and the notice from Shuimu University has also been issued," Jiang Deming said and handed his admission letter to Jiang Defu. Jiang Defu took it over and looked at it. It was really the admission letter from Shuimu University, and he still recognized those few words. But when were all these things done? Why didn't he notice at all? Having doubts in his heart, Jiang Defu naturally asked. Jiang Deming rolled his eyes and said, "I've told you about this before, but every time you go back, you sleep like a dead pig. How could you listen?" Jiang Defu scratched his head, and now he remembered that several times when he was sleeping, he had a vague feeling that someone was speaking in his ear, but he couldn't remember exactly what was said. While feeling worried about his tragic future, Jiang Defu couldn't help but laugh foolishly, because his family had been poor peasants for several generations, and even he didn't recognize the characters until he joined the military. Even now, he still can't fully recognize them. I don't want the old Jiang family to finally become an intellectual and a college student. This is a matter of honoring their ancestors. Do you want to leave now? Jiang Defu asked. Jiang Deming nodded and said, "Yes, otherwise it would be difficult for me to leave when the teacher comes back." After pondering for a moment, Jiang Deming said, "Okay, let me help you tidy up together." At this moment, Jiang Defu was not yet aware of the seriousness of the situation and only wanted to help his younger brother arrange things properly so that he could leave with peace of mind. More than an hour later, Jiang Deming followed Zhao Gang on the bus to the train station, preparing to take the evening bus to the capital. As soon as they left, Jiang Defu's pig-killing screams came from the camp. Jiang Deming turned a deaf ear to this, holding a retirement pension of 3,000 yuan and the 300 yuan that Jiang Defu had forced into him. These three brothers were really kind to him, not in vain for helping him avoid the disaster of the green hat. Not long after crossing over, Jiang Deming ruined Jiang Defu's nominal but unreal arranged marriage. Although Jiang Defu had many flaws, overall, he was still a good person, and the soldiers who worked hard on the battlefield in this era were all worthy of respect. Jiang Deming naturally couldn't let him suffer from that cowardice. Just as he was thinking about these things, Zhao Gang sitting next to him spoke. "Deming, are you really sure you're going to study mechanical engineering? Don't think about it anymore." "No need, I think this one is still the most suitable for me." Jiang Deming also wants to study in other departments, but his system is just an ordinary check-in system, not a top student system. Learning something he is not familiar with is a waste of time. Mechanical engineering happens to happen, and he came from this background in his previous life. Coupled with the high value of college students in this era, he may even be able to directly enter government agencies after graduation. After hearing this, Zhao Gang did not further advise. Although he had a high opinion of Jiang Deming, he would not do anything that would force him to press his head without drinking water. That was Li Yunlong's expertise. "Okay, don't forget to write to me when you have time in the future." "I'm sure I will, there are still many things I need to ask you for advice." Jiang Deming smiled. Zhao Gang nodded and then remembered another thing. By the way, what will happen to the girl surnamed Bai as soon as you leave? Ah. Zhao Gang didn't say it was okay, but whenever he mentioned Jiang Deming, he felt a headache. Finally, he sighed and said, I don't know either. Let's take a closer look at each step. You little boy, you don't know how lucky you are. Zhao Gang had a lot of resentment towards this. He was already in his 40s and didn't even have a partner. Jiang Deming was a good boy, and such a good girl actively pursued him, but he even kept pushing around. As they spoke, they arrived at the station unconsciously. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. You go, if you have the ability to go, don't come back. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. You go, if you have the ability to go, don't come back, farewell to you for 1,000 miles, we must say goodbye. Political Commissar, I can handle it myself. You go back first. Jiang Deming said to Zhao Gang. Zhao Gang looked at Jiang Deming with some emotion in his heart. It can be said that he watched these two brothers grow up, especially Jiang Deming, who had saved his life before. He really regarded Jiang Deming as his younger brother, otherwise he wouldn't have run around for him and even risked falling out with Li Yunlong. Pay attention to your own safety, and study diligently when you arrive at school. With your abilities, I am not worried about you being bullied, but you must have a sense of propriety and not act recklessly. Zhao Gang earnestly advised. I know. Jiang Deming was also very reluctant. If it weren't for the task arranged by the system, he really wouldn't want to leave. But you also need to remember that we don't cause trouble, nor are we afraid of trouble. Old Li and I will always be your support. Jiang Deming looked at Zhao Gang, pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Finally, he stepped forward and hugged Zhao Gang with force, then turned around and strode towards the boarding gate. He didn't dare to turn back, afraid that he might lose his composure. Having traveled for so long, Jiang Deming has already integrated into this world. He is not a robot, so he naturally has emotions. Woo-woo accompanied by a burst of smoke, the locomotive honked a few times before moving forward to stroll and eat. Zhao Gang looked at the train gradually fading away, feeling a bit reluctant in his heart. Just then, a familiar roar suddenly came from behind. Zhao Gang, you bastard, where did you mess with me? Turning his head, Zhao Gang saw Li Yunlong riding a galloping horse towards him. Sigh, after the horse's head was raised high, it stopped in front of Zhao Gang. Li Yunlong flipped over from the horse and walked up to grab Zhao Gang's collar. Lao Zhao, where the hell did you get that little bastard for me? Old Li, please calm down. Zhao Gang tried to pull Li Yunlong's hand apart as he spoke, but his strength was not as strong as Li Yunlong's. You must make it clear to me. Li Yunlong glared angrily at Zhao Gang. He's in a hurry. The soldiers under Li Yunlong's command have always been treated as his own brothers, not to mention that Jiang Deming was brought out by him alone. Deming went to the capital and was admitted to Shuimu University. The admission letter had already been issued. A good soldier is not suitable. What kind of nonsense book is he going to read? Bastard kid, I must catch him back. Li Yunlong let go of Zhao Gang as he spoke, wanting to turn over and mount his horse, performing a scene of chasing the train. Zhao Gang quickly grabbed him and said, Old Li, please don't make any mistakes for me. Deming's retirement and going to school were both approved by the higher authorities. As soon as he said this, he really suppressed Li Yunlong. He stared at Zhao Gang with wide eyes and asked, what's going on? Zhao Gang had no choice but to tell Li Yunlong one by one about what Jiang Deming had done privately. After listening, Li Yunlong remained silent for a long time, and finally looked into the distance and cursed softly. Stinky kid. Azu Jiang Deming on the train sneezed fiercely and rubbed his nose, feeling that it was likely Li Yunlong cursing him. To be honest, Jiang Deming was really worried about Li Yunlong's bad temper and chased him directly to the capital to block him. If that were the case, he really didn't know what to do. He just hoped that Zhao Gang could persuade him. After abandoning these thoughts, Jiang Defu began to check his luggage. In addition to his retirement pension and the money brought by Jiang Defu, there are also some food and industrial vouchers that Zhao Gang gave him before getting on the car. At this time, no matter what he buys, he needs tickets, which are linked to his personal salary. When he was in the army, he was fine, managing food and housing. He had no place to spend money, but now that he has retired, Jiang Defu must consider his future life. Fortunately, the retirement fund in hand can fully support him to graduate from university, and the daily check that IN occasionally gives him some unexpected surprises. After graduation, he is even allocated, so there is no need to worry about survival. No matter how unlucky it is, there is still Jiang Defu. He couldn't have watched this younger brother starve to death outside, could he? After organizing his bags, Jiang Defu began to organize the items in the system again. The system he owns belongs to the check in category, which can be checked in once a day. The rewards may be items, experience points of certain skills, and special rewards may also be given during important festivals. In recent years, the system has rewarded items such as diesel rice noodles, which are essential for daily life, as well as some outdated products. Perhaps because the check that IN was on the battlefield, most of these products are also related to war. At present, Jiang Defu's biggest reward is the design drawing of the Type 81 automatic rifle. However, having only the design drawing is useless, and with the current technology in China, mass production cannot be achieved. However, Jiang Defu still handed it over because he had captured it on the battlefield. As for whether the people above would believe it or not, Jiang Defu didn't care at all. After all, compared to saying it was his own design, the people above would definitely prefer to believe the previous reason. However, if we want to manufacture this thing, we probably have to wait for a long time. This is also one of the few things that Jiang Defu can do for the country. The approval of his retirement by the higher authorities is also partly related to this matter. At present, the rewards for system check that IN include less than 100 kilograms of rice and noodles, 20 kilograms of oil, a few sets of cotton clothes, and 2 Swiss watches. There's no way, now when we're in the north and various supplies are scarce, Jiang Defu can only secretly use the system's reward materials to support us, which he only saved up after he returned. Unfortunately, these items can be retrieved but not stored. Otherwise, Jiang Defu would still be able to stuff some more spoils into the border, which cannot be kept privately. In the end, they all have to be handed over as they are. The Chinese army is the most disciplined army in the world. After cleaning up his belongings, Jiang Defu began to look forward to his future life in the capital. In his previous life, he had been to the capital for the first time, and like many Chinese people, Jiang Defu had a special longing for the capital. After spending more than a day on the train, Jiang Defu finally arrived at his destination. After sitting on the green train for so long, he felt like his whole body was going to fall apart. The environment on the green train these days was completely incomparable to that of later generations. There were people doing everything on the train, as well as those carrying livestock. The flavors mixed together, and the sour and refreshing taste made Jiang Defu estimate that he would not have any appetite for the next few days. After getting off the train, Jiang Defu looked around for a while and finally found a young man holding the sign of Shuimu University. He smiled and walked over with a big and small bag. "Hello, I am Jiang Defu, a new student in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Shuimu University this year. Here is my admission letter." Jiang Defu handed over his admission letter while speaking. The other party saw that it was indeed the admission notice issued by their own school this year, and a passionate smile immediately appeared on their face. "Hello, I am the person in charge of receiving new students at Shuimu University and also a senior who is 2 years older than you. You can call me Li Mingho." "Hello, senior." Jiang Defu quickly said hello. Regardless of the era, those who can get into Shuemu University are genuine academic elites, unlike him who relies solely on the experience provided by the system to take shortcuts. Li Mingho smiled and said, "You can wait for a moment. There are still 2 new students today, and we need to wait for everyone to arrive before we can leave." Okay. So Jiang Deming's life in the capital began like this. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. College Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 5. Graduation Choice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Graduation Choice. Comrade Jiang Deming, do you have any plans for your future? The secretary who received Jiang Deming helped him with his glasses and asked. After pondering for a while, Jiang Deming said, "If possible, I hope to be arranged at the grassroots level." As soon as this statement was made, not only the clerk, but also the leader in charge was taken aback. Those like Jiang Deming, who graduated from Shuemu University, have been at a very high starting point from the beginning. Few would choose to go to the grassroots to start from scratch, rather than seeking special treatment. However, high-level intellectuals like Jiang Deming are scarce talents in the country, so they naturally have to be placed in appropriate positions. There are many grassroots people, so placing Jiang Deming at the bottom is completely a waste of talent. The person in charge of the Ministry of Industry this time has a high status and is determined to recruit more talents for their department. After all, these students from Shuemu can be said to be pillars of talent. With a little training, they are entrusted with important tasks. Comrade, why did you think of going to the grassroots? Talents like you should go to the design department or management department, which is the most suitable place for you. Jiang Deming certainly knew that it would take another 10 or 20 years, and he would definitely choose the departments mentioned by the leader in front of him. But it's already 1965 now, so it's better to choose a more stable grassroots. Moreover, Jiang Deming believes that with his abilities and vision, he will definitely not be buried, and even worse, there is still a check-in system. In this special era, we must not waver. One wave will bring disaster, so Jiang Deming chose the most secure route. Thank you for your concern, but I still hope to go to the grassroots to exercise and develop my skills. As long as I have the ability, I can play it anywhere. In addition, I do have some ideas about some of our engineering equipment, which need to be verified through practical operation. I also hope that the leader can succeed. Jiang Deming has already talked about this matter, and if he doesn't agree, it won't work. If we continue to persuade him, it will be pushing people out. There are also many departments in the Ministry of Industry, and it's not only the upper level who are eager for talent, but also the grassroots. At the same time, this leader also appreciates Jiang Deming's behavior. Most people's thoughts are to go to a good unit, which not only has a bright future, but also better welfare benefits. Jiang Deming is the opposite. After flipping through Jiang Deming's materials, the leader unexpectedly discovered that Jiang Deming was still a combat hero. Apart from other relationships, as long as he revealed this information, some units would grab him. In this situation, Jiang Deming could still choose to take root at the grassroots level. This kind of consciousness is admirable. The matter of Jiang Deming's entry into the Ministry of Industry was finalized, and then we waited for their notification. In the 1950s and 1960s, college students received very good treatment. Not only were they assigned work packages, but after graduation, they became officials without even having to take exams. Moreover, after working for a year, they would have a house to share, and having 2 bedrooms and 1 living room was just a leisure time. Of course, good treatment also means that one has to bear more responsibility than ordinary people. Many students are assigned to frontline positions before graduation, either as technical core positions or assigned to research a new project. There are many people like Jiang Deming who take the initiative to go to the grassroots level. He is a minority, but only for Shuemu students. In this era, many students have just graduated and embarked on the road to the west or mountainous areas. No one has any questions or objections to this arrangement, because they know that the country needs them to take on this responsibility, and their thoughts are also about building and dedicating to the motherland. The called 996 in later generations is nothing at all in this era. Of course, building the country and helping capital work are completely different things. If one day the country needs Jiang Deming to take on a certain job, he will definitely not hesitate. He has enjoyed so much and it is appropriate to contribute to the country. After returning to the dormitory, the roommates immediately gathered up and asked about Jiang Deming's work arrangements. When they heard him say he was going to the Ministry of Industry, they were not surprised. For professionals like them, most people either go to the Ministry of Industry or the Ministry of Agriculture. But when Jiang Deming said he wanted to go down to the grassroots level, the eyes of his roommates were only filled with admiration. The roommate who shouted to become a journalist at the Human Resources Society even said that he wanted to make Jiang Deming's story his first article and put it into action immediately. In just one night, he finished the article. Of course, he hasn't started yet, so he couldn't post it in the People's Daily. In the end, it was published in the school newspaper, which made Jiang Deming a little red. Upon seeing this situation, the school felt that it could be used as a model and contacted the Beijing Daily to greatly promote it. Although Jiang Deming may seem like a little transparent in his daily life, he actually has a reputation in the military headquarters. His previous performance on the battlefield and subsequent contributions to the country are all recorded one by one, and the country will never forget the meritorious officials. Although Jiang Deming has retired now, he is also a child who went out of the military. Now that this child is willing to work down to earth, what else is there to say? Naturally receiving strong support. So the name Jiang Deming quickly became popular among major universities in Beijing, and even spoke up, greatly praising Jiang Deming's behavior. When I received the notification from the Ministry of Industry again, it was already a week later, and Jiang Deming would have become a prominent figure in the school. Not a few people didn't know his handsome face. Fortunately, the current communication technology is not particularly advanced, otherwise Jiang Deming would have to cover his head and face if he went out in the future. 1 Machine Department. When Jiang Deming heard about the unit he was assigned to, he was slightly surprised. Yes. Director Li, who had previously been in contact with Jiang Deming, said, "The research and development of a technology has reached a critical moment recently, and there is an urgent shortage of manpower. Coincidentally, you are studying this, and we have decided to arrange for you to come over. Starting tomorrow, you will report to the first machine." Yes. Jiang Deming instinctively responded loudly. This was a habit he had developed during his years in the military, and coupled with the fact that the big shot in front of him was also from a military background, he unconsciously spoke with a military style. Director Li almost raised his hand and saluted Jiang Deming when he saw him. He couldn't help but smile and patted Jiang Deming's shoulder, saying, "Work hard. Last year, I even met your senior leader once, and that guy talks about you every now and then. We must not lose face with your independent team. Do you know Lao Li before? Speaking of which, since last year, Lao Li has been transferred back to the capital. Jiang Deming has been busy with his studies and has not even visited him yet. He needs to find a time to visit him later." After Director Li finished speaking, he remembered another thing and said, "By the way, I remember you're not from Beijing, right?" "Leader, I'm from Dongshan Zizhou." Jiang Deming said. "Well, it seems we need to arrange a place for you to live. Alright, you can continue to live on campus for the next 2 days. I'll have someone check if there's anything available near Jinggang regarding the house." "Thank you, leader." End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Entering the Animal Group. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Entering the animal group for accommodation. Jiang Deming's requirements are not high. After all, the days of camping on the battlefield have come, what else cannot be accepted? In this era, everyone's conditions are not very good, so finding a place that can provide shelter from wind and rain is almost enough. The indulgence cultivated in the 21st century has long been worn away in the years on the battlefield. At this time, people are actually particularly concerned about efficiency, especially when given orders by the leader. Just after a conversation with the leader in the morning, by the afternoon, Jiang Deming's residence had already been arranged. It's quite close to the place where Jiang Deming is going to report, so it may take about 10 to 20 minutes to walk. After hearing someone talk about the situation there, Jiang Deming was quite satisfied. The only downside was that both the toilet and bathroom were shared, and the kitchen was the same. It's not impossible for you to cook in your own room, but if you don't do it well, you will be poisoned by carbon monoxide produced by burning honeycomb coal. Unless all the doors and windows are opened, it will be too hot in summer and too cold in winter. So most people will choose to stay indoors or outdoors, and those inside are ultimately a minority. Taking advantage of the early time, the person who came to inform Jiang Deming suggested taking Jiang Deming over there to recognize the door and introducing him to some neighbors. After listening, Jiang Deming thought that he had nothing to do anyway, so he agreed. So he got on the bicycle named Han Chunsong and went to the accommodation arranged for him. In these days, the capital city is not like it was later on. There are asphalt roads everywhere, many of which are still paved with green bricks, and there is no cushion on the back seat of the bicycle. Sitting down all the way, Jiang Deming feels like his buttocks are about to be scattered. Here we go. When Han Chunsong said these words, Jiang Deming felt as if he had heard the sound of heaven and immediately jumped off the back seat of his bicycle. Before he could even stand firm, he heard a baritone. "Oh, Xiaohan, you've come over." Jiang Deming turned his head and saw a little old man greeting Han Chunsong with his hands behind his back. "Didn't I tell you before that the leader asked me to arrange a place for the new comrade to live, and there are still vacant rooms nearby? I won't bring someone here to recognize the door." Han Chunsong turned to Jiang Deming and said, "Comrade Jiang, this is Mr. Yi from this yard, an 8th-level fitter at the Red Star Rolling Mill. He helps coordinate and resolve any neighborhood disputes in the yard." Later, he said to Yi Zhonghai, "Mr. Yi, Comrade Jiang Deming is a top student at Shuimu University. You can help take care of him more in the future." Previously, Yi Zhonghai only knew that a new person was coming to the yard. Now, upon hearing that Jiang Deming was actually a top student at Shuimu University, his eyes lit up. Seeing Yi Zhonghai staring at him with a burning gaze, Jiang Deming rolled his eyes in his heart. When he saw this little old man earlier, he felt a bit familiar, so he heard the name again. Sure, it must be the one with a lot of flaws. When I first learned about this TV drama, I saw a fan fiction about it on a small website. Curious, I went to look it up and read it. The first time I watched it, I felt like Su Damao in this drama was so bad that he was running out of pus. The second time I watched it, why are the people in this courtyard so fond of moral kidnapping? Silly Zhu is also too miserable. Is this screenwriter brainwashed? On the third time, my goodness, there isn't a good person in this drama. No wonder this drama is called Love Full 4 Courtyards. Is co-production implying certain people? Thinking of living with a group of beasts in the future, Jiang Deming really wanted to turn around and leave, but he could only think about it. The arrangements for living and handling things were not made by him, so if he didn't live, he might have some opinions about him. Just stay, we don't cause trouble, but we're not afraid of anything. As long as those beasts don't provoke us, it's easy to say anything. However, based on Jiang Deming's understanding of the people in this courtyard, it's probably difficult. After all, if he's going to move in, he will definitely be targeted by some people. These thoughts flashed through my mind, and reality only passed for a moment. Hello Mr. E, my name is Jiang Deming. Please take good care of me in the future. Comrade Xiao Jiang, it's our honor for you to come to our yard. Let's not stand here anymore. Let's take you in and take a look at the room first, Yi Zhonghai said. Han Chunsong beside him also said, "Yes, yes, go take a look first." "Okay, then please trouble Mr. E." Then the three of them walked in together. This quadrangle courtyard was a typical 3-in and 3-out courtyard. In earlier years, without some financial resources, it was impossible to build such a large courtyard in a place like the capital with every inch of land and every inch of gold. Yi Zhonghai led Jiang Deming and Han Chunsong inside while introducing him to the situation in the courtyard. Most of the residents in this courtyard are employees of the steel rolling mill, except for Yan Bugue, the third master in the front yard, who is a primary school Chinese teacher. Speaking of this, Yi Zhonghai paused and patted the back of his head, saying, "Oh, I forgot to tell you that according to the arrangement of the neighborhood committee, some people have been elected from quadrangle houses like ours to mediate neighborhood disputes. I am in charge of the backyard, and Lu Haizhong is also a 7th-level forging worker from the steel rolling mill in the middle yard. The front yard is Yan Bugue, who was just mentioned to you." Although he knew about the situation in the yard early on, Jiang Deming nodded in cooperation. As they spoke, the three of them arrived at a house in the courtyard and took out a key from under a vase by the door to open it. As soon as they opened the door, a gust of dust rushed towards them, and the three of them quickly retreated. "No one has lived here for a long time. I'll have my old lady come over and clean it up later," Yi Zhonghai said. "No need, I'll do it myself." Jiang Deming hurriedly refused. He didn't want to owe Yi Zhonghai any favors. This Yi Zhonghai may seem loyal and considerate, but if you observe carefully, you will realize that this old man is the most cunning and scheming one. A careless one can easily fall into the trap he has set. Yi Zhonghai didn't know what Jiang Deming was thinking and continued, "What's the trouble with this? My husband is also idle, and cleaning the room won't take much effort. Plus, since you've just entered the workplace, there must be a lot of things to do. It's reasonable for neighbors to help each other. That's it." Jiang Deming opened his mouth, but in the end, he didn't refuse anymore. "Forget it, it's not a big deal. Just buy some thank you gifts when he comes over next time. The space in this room is quite spacious, but there is nothing inside. If he wants to stay, Jiang Deming needs to add some things to it. The girl next to you, named He Rainwater, works at the textile factory. Going over there is her brother He Yuzhu's room, who is the chef of our steel rolling mill." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Living with Birds. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Living with Birds. What? The ones living next to me are the crazy demon He Rainwater and the ultimate licking dog He Rainpillar. Despite being mentally prepared, Jiang Deming couldn't help but turn black upon hearing this. He is not afraid of He Rainwater and He Yuzhu. It is also their fault for these two people to commit debauchery, but they cannot resist the fact that there is a thief in this courtyard who likes to steal things from He Yuzhu's room every 3 to 5 days, mainly by stealing food. Jiang Deming's checked that IN system can only store things given by the system, but it cannot fit real things into it. In case the unit sends something in the future, they must guard against theft every day. After all, I live so close to He Yuzhu, and if I steal something, I might just steal it. From the proficiency of the dead child stealing things in the TV series, it can be seen that he often does similar things, and Su Damao is not the first victim besides He Yuzhu. According to normal circumstances, there is a habitual thief in the yard who has been locked up in the juvenile detention center for a long time. However, he has his own mother and a licking dog who greets his mother to help him end the situation, as well as an old man who likes to be gentle. It seems that after moving in, one needs to find a way to lock the door or install a mechanism. If someone loses their arms and legs because of this, that would be interesting. Jiang Deming's biggest hobby in his life is to tidy up the scumbags. Yi Zhonghai saw that Jiang Deming was not speaking and thought he was worried that the people in this courtyard would not be easy to get along with. He said, "Comrade Xiao Jiang, don't worry, the people in this courtyard are all very easy to get along with, very kind." He He's quite enthusiastic, especially fond of moral kidnapping. I know that. I believe it, I'm just thinking where to get some furniture back, otherwise this is empty and not easy to live in. Jiang Deming said. Han Chunsong on the side listened and immediately put forward a suggestion. Comrade Jiang, can you accept second-hand things? My fifth child always likes to tinker with old furniture that others don't want. If you don't mind, I can help you get some. That must be good. If you don't mind it, just use it. I'm just a recent graduate and don't have that much money to buy things, Jiang Deming said with a smile. Okay, I'll find a car to bring you when I go back. Then please trouble Brother Han. You're welcome, they're all friends. Others don't know about Jiang Deming's situation, but Han Chunsong is very clear about it. The young man in front of him was not only a top graduate from a prestigious school, but also had a strong relationship. As far as he knew, the big shots in the Ministry of Industry almost got into a fight to grab him. In the end, the leader spoke up and confirmed Jiang Deming's position. It is said that the armed forces sent people several times to send Jiang Deming away, but they were all sent away by the leader. Although I don't know why Jiang Deming is so popular, Han Chunsong knows that his future achievements will definitely be remarkable. If we don't have a good relationship at this time, when will we fight? Moreover, Xiaowu from their family is about to graduate, and this job is not yet available. When the time comes, they may talk to Jiang Deming and see if there is a way out. Jiang Deming didn't know what Han Chunsong was thinking, and even if he did, he wouldn't care. In life, social interaction is inevitable. If you help me today and I help you tomorrow, there may be some place where I will encounter you. Having multiple friends and multiple paths, anyway, there is no conflict between the two. After looking at the room, Yi Zhonghai and Jiang Deming walked around the yard, telling him where to fetch water and where to do laundry and cooking. Many facilities in these years are not yet perfect, and the experience of living in a courtyard house is not good, so everyone yearns to live in a Western-style building. In the next few years, Wang Tianho will have to pour a night pot by herself. Do you believe that? After strolling around, the sky began to darken. Yi Zhonghai suggested that Jiang Deming and Han Chunsong stay for dinner. Nowadays, everyone is poor, and usually not very good relatives will not keep their meals because they can't afford it. Of course, Yi Zhonghai is an 8th-level fitter with a high salary, and he doesn't have any children, so he can still afford to hire a meal and a half. However, both Jiang Deming and Han Chunsong coincidentally refused. Han Chunsong said that due to his work status, eating people's meals casually can easily lead to gossip. Jiang Deming simply wanted to keep a distance from Yi Zhonghai, or rather, from the people in this entire courtyard. After coming out of the courtyard, Jiang Deming bid farewell to Han Chunsong. Originally, Han Chunsong said he wanted to give him a gift, but Jiang Deming refused, saying he wanted to familiarize himself with the surrounding environment. Han Chunsong had to make an agreement with Jiang Deming to go to his house tomorrow to see the old furniture. Since arriving in the capital a few years ago, Jiang Deming has had time to stroll on the streets for the first time. His days at Shuemu University were not easy, and his classmates around him were desperately absorbing various knowledge. The competition among future students was completely incomparable, as most of them had come from wartime and had a high level of ideological consciousness. They were determined to serve their country after completing their studies. The trend of going abroad or something has not yet emerged and there is no such opportunity. Jiang Deming once had it, but he gave up. The knowledge he needed to learn could be learned in China, while what he couldn't learn could be given away for free by the system when he checked in. What are you going abroad for at this time? Has someone looked down upon you? After crossing into this world, Jiang Deming's thoughts gradually integrated into this era, and he also worked hard to contribute to this world country in his own way. When Jiang Deming first entered school, he met a senior named Chunming, who gave him a great impression. The only regret was that the senior fell in love with a woman who admired vanity. For some reason, the woman was almost beaten to death by a group of angry women. Fortunately, even if Jiang Deming and Chen Peng arrived, they were able to save her. However, facial injuries were inevitable, and Jiang Deming didn't have a particularly good solution. After all, the check.in system didn't give him anything to repair his appearance. Fortunately, Senior Chen Peng wasn't the one who cared about it. After the little nurse named Wang Mingjia was rescued, Chen Peng took her back to go home with him. After that, he would go to the northwest to complete his mission. Although Jiang Deming knew about this matter, he remained silent for a long time. Some things always require someone to step forward. He couldn't give advice and dared not, because if he had the ability, he would definitely make the same choice as Senior Chen Peng. The only thing Jiang Deming can do is to give Chen Peng the several sets of protective clothing he signed in with a while ago. Although this may expose some things, Jiang Deming can't care about it anymore. As is well known, Comrade Xiaojiang killed countless enemies on the battlefield and seized many supplies. We still have no idea what these goods are hiding. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Recycling of Old Furniture. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Recycling of Old Furniture, Comrade Xiaojiang, is Comrade Jiang Deming here. The next morning, while Jiang Deming was still washing up, he heard Han Chuansong's voice coming from outside. Jiang Deming quickly leaned out and said, "Brother Han, I'm washing up. You come in first, I'll be ready soon." "Don't worry, take your time," Han Chuansong shouted. Jiang Deming responded and accelerated his pace. After rinsing his mouth with water, he picked up a towel and wiped it on his face, which was considered complete. When he came out, Han Chuansong was looking at the dormitory environment. When Jiang Deming came out, he smiled and said, "Aren't your dormitories like this for college students? It feels more like a library than a dormitory, and you sleep directly in the pile of books at night." After listening, Jiang Deming couldn't help but laugh. When he first arrived at Shuimu University, he saw that the situation in the dormitory of the senior students was the same as Han Chuansong's reaction. It wasn't until he truly integrated that he realized that only in this learning atmosphere could those great pioneers emerge. Almost so, now we are all doing research while studying, so we have collected a lot of things. Actually, here is a large part of the notes we take. Upon hearing Jiang Deming's words, Han Chuansong's eyes immediately became solemn. He worked in the department and knew that many students like Jiang Deming were assigned to the front line before graduation, leading their bottom-line teams to tackle one task after another while also balancing their studies. He also didn't hear of anyone who couldn't graduate. He only saw their glory in front of others and didn't realize the efforts these students put in behind the scenes. So there should be quite a lot of things you need to move, right? I happened to ride a tricycle over and was originally planning to help you pull furniture, which would come in handy. Jiang Deming's eyes lit up when he heard this. He was worried about where to find a car to take the things away. There were many things here that were related to his future research, but he couldn't just discard them. Then trouble Han, I really have a lot of things to move here. Okay, let's hurry up. While it's still early, we'll bring these things over first and the furniture later. I estimate I'll have to make several trips. Then the two of them began to move Jiang Deming's books, notes, and daily necessities. When Jiang Deming returned last night, he had already packed them and just picked them up. The classmates in the neighboring dormitory saw Jiang Deming moving things, so they also came up and helped him. In recent years, besides studying, Jiang Deming has also not fallen behind in interpersonal communication. Whoever has difficulties and needs help in daily life, he will help as long as he can, so he has the title of water and would little Meng taste. With the joint efforts of the big guys, the things that had originally had to be moved several times were finally picked up in just one trip, and the car that Han Chuansong rode over was piled up like carrying a small mountain. He couldn't sit up anymore, so Jiang Deming had to follow behind and run, fortunately not too far away. At this time, it is working hours, and there are not many people in the courtyard, only some housewives and young children playing in the yard. When Jiang Deming and Han Chunsong were moving things inside, those children followed curiously, not afraid of strangers at all. When Jiang Deming arrived at his room, he found that the door was open and more than 150 women were cleaning inside. It goes without saying that this must be Yi Zhonghai's wife. She turned her head when she heard the commotion outside. "Are you Comrade Xiao Jiang?" asked the old lady cautiously. "Yes, it's me. Are you a big mom? Could you please help me clean up? I'm really sorry." After confirming that it was Jiang Deming, the old lady smiled and said, "What's up here? Anyway, I'm also idle. The old man said you would move over today, and I thought it was going to be tonight. I haven't even finished cleaning yet. Well, I have a lot of things, so I'll bring over those from school first. I'll have to go pull furniture later. Mom, you don't have to work hard anymore, I'll do the rest myself. It's all in the same yard." "You're welcome. My old man has gone to work, and before he leaves, he instructed me to treat you well. Just go ahead and keep busy. When you finish pulling things and come back, I should also clean up now." The more the old lady looked at Jiang Deming, the more she felt that the child was handsome. The masculine aura that came from his face was irresistible to any woman. It was said that he graduated from Shuimu University, and if she had a daughter, she would definitely marry him. Jiang Deming saw his aunt insisting and couldn't say anything more. He could only let her tinker, while he followed Han Chunsong and went to his house to pick out old furniture. The courtyard where Han Chunsong lives is not far from Jiang Deming's, and it is also a communal courtyard. However, it is slightly smaller than Jiang Deming's side. Before entering, Han Chunsong shouted into it. "Mom, come out for a moment." As soon as she finished speaking, a woman walked out from inside, much younger than a middle-aged woman. She was wearing an apron and had some white marks on her hands, probably rubbing her face or something. Here. What are you shouting so loudly for? I'm not deaf." Han's mother said angrily. Hee, I'm afraid you won't hear me. Where did you put that warehouse key? Didn't I mention last night that a friend needs to buy some old furniture? Today, I brought him over. Oh. Only then did Han's mother see Jiang Deming standing by, and her eyes lit up. She looked at Jiang Deming with the same eyes as an old aunt. "Hello auntie, I'm Jiang Deming. Just call me Xiao Jiang." Hello. Han's mother became more and more satisfied as she looked at it. In addition, she did hear Han Chunsong mention last night that he would bring friends over. Han Chunsong did not disclose Jiang Deming's situation to his family, only stating that he was his own friend. Humans are all visual creatures, and Han's mother was already thinking about waiting until tonight to ask Han Chunsong about the situation of Xiao Jiang in front of her. She has 2 daughters who are already at the age of marriage, and if the conditions are suitable, she would definitely be a son-in-law candidate. With such a handsome young man, the children he gives birth to will definitely be as beautiful as him. Jiang Deming didn't know that he had already been targeted by his mother Han. He only felt that her gaze was strange and thought that Han Chunsong had told her his identity as a Shuimu student. There was no way he could do it. One of the 2 highest universities in China still had a high reputation, but it would be difficult to say in a few years. After obtaining the key from Han's mother, Han Chunsong took Jiang Deming to the warehouse. As soon as he entered, Jiang Deming's eyes lit up. Previously, when he heard Han Chunsong talk about second-hand furniture, he thought it was junk that others didn't want. But what kind of junk are these things in front of me? Clearly, they are all treasures. If they were to be stored in future generations, these things in front of them might be worth 2 houses. However, how could Han Chunsong think of dealing with these things? Is it true that you don't know the value, or are you having ulterior motives? Newcomers and new books require support. If you have a vote, please cast a vote. Otherwise, you can give a review. Thank you. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. First Meeting with Han Chunming. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 9. First Meeting with Han Chunming. Han, these are all old items that are worth a lot of money. How could you think of selling them? Ah. Han Chunsong was a bit confused when he heard this, and after a while, he said, these are all the things that my little five at home brought back. They're worth it. I'm thinking about them, but I can't see any difference. Isn't it a broken second-hand furniture? Well, Jiang Defu now understands what's going on. Judging from Han Chunsong's disdainful expression, he clearly doesn't know the true value of these things. He only thinks they occupy space, no wonder he said he wants to give them to him. It's okay if they're not familiar with each other, but in the future, there will probably be more places for the two of them to interact. Jiang Defu can't do such a familiar thing. So he shook his head and said, Han, I can't take this thing, and your brothers probably don't know about this, do they? If you want to know, we must be in a hurry with you. Han Chunsong touched his head and said, I haven't had a chance to say it yet, okay. Then I'll find something else for you. Upon hearing Jiang Defu say that these things were valuable, Han Chunsong's mind on handling junk naturally changed. If they were truly valuable, Xiao Wu would have to hurry with him when he returned. Okay, you're quite familiar with Beijing, I can only trouble you. Jiang Defu smiled. What's here? They're all friends. As the two were talking, there was suddenly a commotion outside, and then a half-grown boy rushed in from outside. Seeing that he was still there, he breathed a sigh of relief. Then he stared at Jiang Defu and Han Chunsong with unfriendly eyes. Big brother, why didn't you ask me and just send someone over to pick up my things? Hey, your kid has piled up the entire warehouse without any explanation, can I not think of handling it? Stop talking nonsense, isn't it class time now? How did you come back? Did you skip class again? Han Chunsong turned the tables and asked Xiao Wu 3 times in a row, leaving him completely bewildered. He also forgot about provoking a teacher to punish him, and as he watched his elder brother about to go get a broom, he immediately turned around and ran away. Han Chunsong's father left early, and he usually manages a few younger brothers and sisters, especially Xiao Wu, who has been mischievous since childhood. He has been beaten by Han Chunsong many times, and the most frightening thing is this big brother. Seeing that he will be beaten again, why don't he run away quickly? Han Chunsong looked at his younger brother running away with a helpless expression on his face, shook his head, and said to Jiang Defu, you must be joking. This is my 5th son, Han Chunming. He has been very mischievous since childhood and is very headache-inducing. Han Chunming. Jiang Defu blinked, no wonder he thought this kid was a bit familiar just now, one of the classic protagonists of licking dogs in era dramas. However, being able to save up so much at this age is truly a big shot who can afford to open a museum in the future. Wait a moment, if it's Han Chunming's family, then the famous 9 sect commander should also be in this place, right? Jiang Defu touched his chin, pondering whether he should find an opportunity to visit. Jiang Defu himself is also quite interested in antiques. Even if he is not interested, he should still do something. Soon, many antique cultural relics will be maliciously damaged, which is really a pity. If he has the ability, he can help preserve some things, after all, these things belong to the genetic treasures of the entire China. However, there is no rush at this moment. We need to slowly establish a good relationship with Han Chunming, and then use him to approach Mr. Guan. If you rashly come to your door, you will only be regarded as having ulterior motives. After all, this old man has a valuable collection of antiques in a warehouse, and even his own family members are not at ease. How could he possibly trust this stranger Jiang Defu? Xiao Jiang, what are you thinking? Han Chunsong's voice rang in his ear. Jiang Defu finally regained his senses and said, oh, it's nothing. I just thought your 5th child was quite interesting. Not many people at this age know how to distinguish old objects. Harm, that was all learned from old Master Guan from the East Court, and what's the use of this? It can't be used as a meal. Jiang Deming smiled upon hearing the words. Some things may not be useful here, but after 10 or 20 years, it will be different. Moreover, it is just as effective to go to other industries just because of Han Chunming's vision. In the original plot, collecting antiques is just Han Chunming's hobby. His wealth is full of vision and excellent management ability. If he is not too kind and has been poisoned by a certain white lotus flower, Han Chunming's ultimate achievements are definitely not just as they were before. But this has nothing to do with Jiang Deming. It's hard to persuade damn ghosts with good words. Han Chunming licks Su Meng so badly, and his family and friends should have tried to persuade him long ago. They didn't even work. How could Jiang Deming, an outsider, persuade him? Let's sweep the snow in front of each house. Han Chunsong's old furniture is no longer available for purchase and can only be found elsewhere. Jiang Deming suggested calling on Han Chunming. Since this kid can collect so many old items, he probably knows the situation nearby. Han Chunming is still young and doesn't have much pocket money. Although most of those old items were bought at a cabbage price before being chopped and used as firewood. Even if he recognizes the other things, he won't be able to get them. There's no money. But Jiang Deming is different. He hasn't used up his retirement fund yet. Jiang Defu, Li Yunlong, and Zhao Gang occasionally bring him something, and the system occasionally has cash for check.in. Over the years, Jiang Deming's money has not only increased, but also increased. Han Chunsong did not refuse Jiang Deming's proposal. Anyway, Han Chunming skipped class, so let him help with some serious matters. As for how to catch Han Chunming who had already run away, Han Chunsong had a solution. He only went out for a while before escorting Han Chunming back with a shrug and a tug of his head. When Han Chunming heard that Jiang Deming was going to help him find things on his own, he suddenly became enthusiastic. There's no problem helping you, but I need some benefits. Before Jiang Deming could reply, Han Chunsong became angry first. Stinky kid, would you dare to ask for a favor from you? Is that how I usually teach you? Han Chunsong was about to reach out and tug at Han Chunming's ear, but this kid was clever and saw that the situation was not right, so he immediately hid behind Jiang Deming. Big brother, it's you who said that even if you're a biological brother, you have to keep track of the accounts. Besides, this person and I are not biological brothers yet. If we want horses to run, we won't give them grass. How could there be such a reason in this world? You. Han Chun was about to reach out and tug at Han Chunming, but Jiang Deming quickly stopped him and said, Han, Xiao Wu is right. Since he helps me with things, it's only right for me to give him some benefits. Jiang Deming turned to Han Chunming and asked, Kid, what benefits do you want? Han Chunming's eyes rolled around, and the person in front of him seemed to have a background. Not to mention, his demeanor alone was not easy. Moreover, because he came into a good company, his brother usually talks to everyone except his own family, looking up. I never saw him so kind when talking to people. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Buying Old Items. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Buying Old Items. Needless to say, it must be because this person has a background that Big Brother is holding him up like this. This is a big fat sheep sent to his door. When will it be better not to take action now? After turning and thinking for a while, he extended 3 fingers at Jiang Deming and said, I have 3 conditions. 3. Jiang Deming looked at Han Chunming with a smile on his face and said, you can talk about it first. First of all, it's mainly labor costs, and I don't want much either. Just give me 2 yuan as a gesture of goodwill. Secondly, if you buy those things back, I hope you can allow me to visit your place. Lastly, Han Chunming restrained his playful and cynical expression on his face and said seriously, I hope you can treat these things well. If one day you don't want them and want to sell them, I hope you can prioritize me. Jiang Defu looked at Han Chunming in surprise upon hearing the words. This young man had this realization at a young age. It seems that old Master Guan really regarded him as a successor in his profession. As is well known, the most important inheritance of China has never been a material thing, but a thought, which is the reason why we have inherited it for 5,000 years. Even if Han Chunming doesn't say it, Jiang Defu won't do anything to sell his historical heritage. So why not agree to him? Okay, I've agreed to all these conditions. Jiang Defu smiled. Xiao Jiang, you. Han Chunsong wanted to persuade Jiang Defu, after all, he brought this up, and Han Chunming was his younger brother. Jiang Defu stopped Han Chunsong's unfinished words and said, "It's okay, brother Han." However, Han Chunming seemed unsatisfied and continued, "Since that's the case, let's establish a document." Now Han Chunsong has completely gone berserk, and Jiang Defu won't stop him anymore. Han Chunming should indeed learn a lesson. So a delightful scene unfolded in the courtyard, with Han Chunsong holding a rattan stick and chasing Han Chunming around the house. In the end, it was Han's mother who intervened to stop the farce. In this way, Han Chunming still dealt a few harsh blows and looked at Jiang Defu with resentment in his eyes. Jiang Defu felt no guilt about Han Chunming being beaten, and even wanted to laugh. However, in order to make this kid do his best, Jiang Defu still gave him a written document. After receiving the money and documents, Han Chunming's face returned to a smile. What did he plan to do? He has been used to being beaten since childhood, and his skin is really tough. Then two big, one small, and 3 men rode bicycles around the nearby streets. Han Chunming was very precocious, and when other children had time to cause trouble, he was different. When he had time, he either wandered around with Mr. Guan or searched for treasures on the streets. Otherwise, how did his collection come from? There are many things in the original drama that treat antique cigarette sticks as children's toys or items. Originally, Jiang Defu thought that Han Chunming would be responsible for leading the way, and that he and Han Chunsong would be responsible for bargaining. However, he didn't expect this kid to be very skilled. Before the two adults could speak up, he had already taken care of the matter, and all Jiang Defu had to do was pay the bill. After strolling down 2 streets, the tricycle was once again piled up, with tables and chairs on top. Although not a complete set, what does that matter? The craftsmanship and historical significance are not to mention, just the wood is rare, and in a few decades, it will be impossible to buy with money. Besides the things on the car, Jiang Defu and Han Chunming also carried a lot of things in their hands. Let's get here today first, the rest will come another day, don't rush for a moment. Jiang Defu said. So I'll pull these over first? Han Chunsong asked. Well, Chunsong, please ride slowly. I'll walk back with Xiaowu slowly. Okay, I'll take a step ahead and wait for you outside the courtyard. Okay. Then Han Chunsong vigorously pedaled his bicycle and rode towards the courtyard where Jiang Defu lived. Now there are only Jiang Defu and Han Chunming left. After spending time together just now, the two of them have become familiar and not too awkward. Xiao Wu, I heard your older brother say, are you ready to work now? Han Chunming nodded and said, yes, my grades are average, and going to college is also a waste of time. It's better to find a job and start working early. Do you have anything in mind? Jiang Defu asked. I don't know yet, let's take a look then. Han Chunming himself is also a bit confused about the future. He really doesn't have much ambition now. Doing business or anything else is not allowed at this time. Collecting antiques is also because Guan Laozi has been exposed to it and his interests have not considered it as work. If this were to happen, he would have to be a rag collector. How about I give you a suggestion? You say it. I think if given the opportunity, it's better to learn more things. Knowledge will never deceive you. When knowledge and experience improve, no matter what you want to do in the future, it will be much easier. Jiang Defu knew that according to the development of the times, perhaps as soon as Han Chunming graduated, he would have to go to the countryside to cut in the queue, and this time would last for a long time. When he returned, he would become an elderly youth, and it would be difficult for him to calm down when he wanted to learn something. Nowadays, Han Chunming is only 15 years old. He is a bit young at this age. For the sake of Han Chunsong's face and the fact that he did his best to help himself just now, Jiang Defu doesn't mind giving him a thumbs up. What you said is indeed very reasonable, but I am not suitable for reading. Okay, then you can do it yourself. Jiang Defu did not further advise. Anyway, Han Chunming would have to go to the countryside for at most another year of education. If he could listen to this and learn more when cutting in line, it would always be helpful for his future. If you don't listen, it's okay. Anyway, there's an old man named Guan who can provide him with some peace of mind. No matter how bad it is, it won't be any worse. As the two of them spoke, they arrived at the entrance of the steel rolling mill courtyard. Han Chunming looked inside, raised his eyebrows, and asked, "Brother Jiang, do you live here?" What's the problem? Hey, originally I didn't want to gossip about people, but we're not friends. Remember to keep your things safe and lock them when you go out in the future, otherwise if you get stolen one day, it won't be good. Listening to this kid's point, he almost said that there were thieves in this yard. A flash of inspiration flashed in Jiang Defu's mind. Shouldn't Han Chunming know the stick meme? What do you mean by that? Just the literal meaning, you must be right to listen to me anyway. After Han Chunming finished speaking, he didn't wait for Jiang Defu to reply before carrying something and walking in. Jiang Defu couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that someone's theft behavior was really well known. This courtyard is really a microcosm of the dark side of society. End of this chapter.